Now, sugar is another big stealer of magnesium. Sugar is the real poison. Forget CO2. Sugar's the bad guy. This is actually chemical. So when you grow sugar cane or fruits or, sugar beets, the sugar is wrapped up in the natural minerals and vitamins and the whole of the vegetable. That's not bad for you. So you can have some molasses. It actually has health benefits. Not too much. but it's got beautiful enzymes and nutrients. But if you strip all the minerals, if you strip everything out of it and reduce it just to sucrose, your sugar cube, your sugar crystals, it's got nothing in it. It becomes a chemical to the body. And you can't process it very well. And what it causes is a huge imbalance in your magnesium levels, because you need 28 molecules of magnesium to metabolize one sucrose molecule. That's why when you give kids that are low in magnesium a jelly bean, they're spinning around the room, flying on the chandeliers, and you can't calm them down. They're like so overexcited. Oh yeah, that's an ADHD kid, isn't it? No, it's not. It's a low magnesium kid. 56 magnesium molecules to process one fructose molecule. So who would have thought? Who thinks fruit is really good for you? It is, but it's a type of fruit that you have. First of all, make sure it's all organic, and if you do have a sugar problem, you really need to avoid sweet fruits like bananas and oranges that are high in sugar create a lot of acid. Acid is the enemy. When we move into sugar metabolism, acid is the worst enemy. So we need to be very, very mindful of the sugar that we consume. Fruits that are good for you in this case are the sour fruits, green tart apples, the fruit berries, the forest berries, like blueberries, raspberries, strawberries. They're not high in sugar. They give you lots of proanthocyanins, a lot of nutrients, vitamins, minerals, but not high in sugar. Lemons, limes, it's been done for hundreds of years to squeeze a fresh lemon into a big glass of water and have it first thing in the morning. Very alkalizing, cleansing for the digestive system. You can also use apple cider vinegar has a similar alkalizing effect to clean the digestive system, because what we want to do is get back to an alkaline state. We want to move away from the acid. And sugar causes acid byproducts, and it steals your magnesium. So there's the seesaw effect. The lower the magnesium, the higher sugar sensitivity, because the sugar is robbing you of the magnesium. So you move from fat metabolism to sugar metabolism. When you have more magnesium, you have more energy. That's how you can turbocharge. So it's the sugar that makes you fat. Who told you it's okay to have sugar as long as you have fat-free? Who thought fat-free was good? Yeah, a little more aware crowd. Good on you. Good fats are good for you. You need good fats. Remember I talked about the cholesterol? So you make good cholesterol from the good fats. They're the cold fats. Don't ever superheat your fats, because then you oxidize them. You make sure they're not rancid. So your good oils, your omega-3 oils, and also butter and coconut oil. Cook with coconut oil, that's very healthy. But fats are very good for you. You can eat the beautiful skin around that roast chicken. Don't feel guilty about it. Enjoy it. It's really good for you. Put everything in your soup. The bones, the skin, then the marrow comes out of the bones is the best thing. Bone broth, very good for healing and sealing the gut. It's full of zinc and magnesium in the bones. So so fat metabolism is good, and the nerves in the brain need glucose, but most of the rest of the body needs fat metabolism. So when you make glucose, you can make glucose out of the sugars, or you can make glucose out of the fats, and the glucose fuels the brain and the nervous system. When you have a bit too much glucose, your liver stores 1.5 hours worth to feed the brain. So if the brain runs out of sugar, glucose, the liver sends it up. If you're like half full in the liver of what you need to feed the brain goes, oh, I've only got a little bit left and I can't convert this big fat around the middle because we can't burn the fat. Quick, eat more sugar. That's what causes sugar cravings. You can't burn your fat, so you go to sugar metabolism, and the brain does not want to run out of energy. The brain uses more energy than any other organ in the body. It's very, very intensive with its energy consumption. It doesn't want to run out of energy. That's why if you can't burn your fat and you don't get the glucose back, if you have a sugar problem, you get dizzy. You get that, you know, shaky muscle, dizziness, and you quickly have to eat something. Well, what happens most of the time, people eat all the wrong things. That creates more fat, but doesn't give you energy. It gives you like a little short-term boost and then crash. You haven't used anywhere near the energy that is in the food. So what happens, insulin then turns the remainder of that glucose into fat cells and puts it around the middle. So you eventually end up with a round shape. They call that apple shape, a pre-diabetic shape, where you have like thinner arms and legs but bigger around the middle. That's definitely a sign, a precursor of diabetes, and eventually diabetes, and after diabetes comes heart disease. So it's a continuum. One goes to the other. So sugar metabolism causes acid, and it is anaerobic, which means that when you burn sugars, you don't need oxygen to do that. When you burn fat, you need oxygen to burn fat. But fat's much more efficient. You get a lot more ATP, energy molecules, out of fat burning than you do sugar. You can't burn fat without enough oxygen, which is why pH is important. So if you're low in pH, which is too acid, you can't suck in enough oxygen to burn the fat. That's why moving your body is a good idea to put oxygen in, but you also need to make sure you alkalize the body and you get out of that acid so that you can suck in more of the oxygen. Then you can burn more fat. You lose your excess weight, you trim down lean and mean, and you move from sugar to fat metabolism. More oxygen and more alkaline. So ATP energy needs oxygen and magnesium. Magnesium is absolutely central to the ATP molecule. I've got a diagram coming up a bit later. But if your pH is too low, not enough oxygen can be dissolved. Without oxygen, only 2 molecules of ATP can be produced. So you definitely need lots of oxygen to burn your fat, and when you do, you get 38 molecules of ATP. It's extremely efficient with energy output, which athletes need to know that, because you want to consume less volume for the biggest output of energy. You want to be the most efficient. That's why it's good for athletes. They've been doing studies with the Sports Institute in Canberra, and they created 3 groups. One group of athletes was on a high carb diet, one group of athletes high protein, and one group of athletes high fat diet. And they tested them all out in performance. And guess who beat all the others by far in performance output? It's the fat ones, not the fat ones. You know what I mean? It's a group on the primarily the fat diet. And then came the protein, and last were the carbohydrate-based diets. So there you go. So this is a diagram of the ATP molecules. So you see it's adenine, ribose, and 3 phosphates. And those little joining lines in between the 3 Ps is the Mg, which is magnesium. Magnesium holds those phosphates together, and it's made in the mitochondria. This is the energy powerhouse inside the cell. So these little critters here live inside the cell, and they make the electrical energy of the body. And it has to have sufficient magnesium to produce enough electrical energy. Once that energy is produced, it's flung off to the enzymes in the body, and all the cells do different jobs. They might be digesting food, they're building new cells, detoxing, thousands and thousands of enzymatic reactions that do different jobs in the body. All of them need to be plugged into the magnesium power point, which comes through the mitochondria. And all of them need energy to drive enzymes. That's why when you get low in magnesium, everything gets sluggish. Every system in the body gets not enough energy and too slow. Especially the membrane of the cell. relies on magnesium to keep a charge. So we need inside the cell lots of magnesium molecules, and the K is potassium, maybe a couple of sodium. Most of the sodium and calcium is outside the cell, extracellular. Now to separate those things, you need the charge of the cell to have a lot of magnesium. Magnesium holds charge. It also helps the water stay inside the cell. So if you lose a lot of magnesium, it goes too low, the cell wall becomes compromised and leaky. It starts to lose water and dehydrate and shrivel up. The whole vascular system then starts to conserve water and compress. It releases a hormone, vasopressin, that squeezes the vascular system so more water can go up into the brain, because the brain's very thirsty for water. And that causes hypertension, causes all sorts of muscular contractions, involuntary twitches.